Okay, so this unit we're going to talk about arrays. Now we've talked about strings before, which are very similar to arrays of characters. Arrays are exactly what we talked about. Ooh, I can't draw on this, can I? And I don't have mine. All right, let's do this. All this bullshit. Okay, so we can think of arrays grab that up there. As a series of spaces where we can store data, right? So if you have int array x, that's referring to this entire sequence of data. And if you say x sub, let's say 3, what that refers to is this is the 0th index, the 1 index, the 2 index, the 3 index. So if you write this, you're referring to that location in the array, which is very similar to what we were doing with strings, except instead of using the square bracket notation, we called the char@at function. But it's the same idea. So the objectives of 7.1, we want to know about constructing and traversing these arrays, accessing these arrays. We're going to write a complete array program, randomly accessing these arrays, using the different array methods, the for each loop, which is another way to access arrays, initializing the arrays, and then the arrays class. We just talked about what an array is. We talked about what an index is. This is the... I wish this was a real slideshow so I could show you, I could draw in it. That is our syntax for creating an array. So just like declaring a regular double, we use the word double to say the type. Then we have square brackets to indicate that this is an array. Then the name of the variable, and then equals, now here we have this new keyword. If you recall, new means I want you to create what I'm describing here on the heap. It's the same thing we used when we created objects, like string objects and scanner objects. Anytime we create an object, it's created on the heap. The same thing here, it's created on the heap. Now for Java, that doesn't really matter. On Java, everything's created on the heap. However, if you're talking about a stronger type language like C++ or C, if it's created on the heap, that means it has to be deleted from the heap, right? Those of you who've taken C++ should remember using the delete keyword. In Java, we don't need to worry about that. Java deletes everything for us, but we should still have a kind of a mental understanding of what the heap is, right? It's an area of memory where anytime we need to create something new, we put it out there, and when we're done using it, it gets deleted. So that's what the new keyword signifies. And then double, because we're indicating the type again. And on this side, inside the square brackets, we have the number 3. That's the number of items that we want to put inside this array. We can make arrays of any of our basic data types. We can also have arrays of objects, and we will talk about that later on in Chapter 7. So, traversing arrays, I'm just going to skip the slides here and go right into the example. We're going to create a Java class called average weight, and let's enter this code here. And I'm going to copy that, go to BlueJ, create a new class, average weight. By the way, if you're not following along with me, you should be. Let me delete that, delete all that, create a main method. Now what you may notice is we've had those square brackets all along, right? We've had those square brackets with our arguments, right? So an array of arguments has been passed into the main method each time. We never use that, but there has been an array there. Paste in the code. Did I copy it right? No, it was slow coming up. All right, for int I equals 0, I less than wait.length, wait I equals console.next. So first we need to declare wait, double wait, oop, forgot the square brackets, equal new double 3. And then I need to create a console to read it in. And of course, because I'm using a console, I need to include that, import that. It has compiled, and let me set a breakpoint there and go back in here and let's run main. Click OK. I get my debugger, and I am, let me move this around so you can see it all. So I am stopped at this point. I'm going to take a step, and now notice double is one of my local variables. If I want to see all the values in double, I'm going to double click on it, and it shows me the length is 3 because I put 3 items in there. The value of 0, 1, and 2 are all 0 because Java initializes everything to 0. Let me take another step. Creates the console. Now it's added I, which starts off as 0. Now it's going to wait for me to input a value, and for that I need the terminal. So it's waiting for me to type in a value. I'm going to put in 56.6. And now if I double click on wait, you'll see that 56.6 is in the first location. Take another step. I'll put in 57.5. And if I double click, we see that's the index 1. And now we see the value of I is 2, so this is going to go into index 2. I'll put in 68.4, and when I double click on console, we see, wrong one. When I double click on wait, we see 68.4 went into index number 2. Now I is greater than the length, or should be equal to the length, because the length is 3, I is going to be 3. So we exit the loop, and we're done. And I'm going to terminate it. That's the basics of traversing an array. Just the same way that we've had our counting loops before. It's just our counting loop is counting through the indexes from 0 to 1 less than our length, right? Because we start counting at 0, just like with strings. Let's take a look at the next slide. Now let's change that code to add a loop to print out each of those weights. So because I'm lazy, I'm going to copy that loop. I'm going to do that. And then instead of reading in from the console, I'm going to say system.out.println weight number, and I'm going to add I, so it'll show us the index. Is, and then I will get the actual value at that index and compile it, and I'll set a breakpoint here and run it. And I didn't clear it, so I'll put in 86.5, 56.8, 34.5, and now it's stopped at my breakpoint. Take a step, and we see it prints out weight number 0 is 86.5, weight number 1 is 56.8, and weight number 2 is 34.5. Okay, that should be pretty straightforward so far. You might want to create a few arrays and traverse them just to get some practice at this point. Go ahead and pause the video. It's not going anywhere. Now, this is the first assignment that you're going to submit for this week's in-class assignments, even though you're doing them out of class. Take that code and change it to calculate the average of the users of the inputted weights. Now, this is exactly the same way we calculated the average before, but instead of doing it while the weights are being entered, you're going to do it afterwards. All right, so that is the first in-class assignment, and I'm going to stop this video at this point so you can do that, and you can come back to the second video when you've finished it.